Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Friday Nights on the Bayou. I'm your host, as always, Grant Sashery of Rouge Sports Media, as well as a reporter for CrescentCitySports.com. Joined here most of the time is Jace. He's often my co-host unless something unforeseen happens. But Jace, another week of high school football, man, crazy stuff. Of course, we had the hurricane and everything. Luckily, it wasn't as bad, although some areas were still greatly affected by the hurricane, especially in the river parishes where a lot of games were canceled. I mean, Jace, what are your overall thoughts about this past weekend?
Yeah, it was crazy. Grant, like you just mentioned, a lot of games being moved to the different days, different locations, games being canceled that were originally supposed to be played, and teams rescheduling to play different teams. But at the beginning of the seasons here in Louisiana, you're pretty much kind of used to a lot of the changes that are going on, right? So, especially with hurricane season, a lot of things going on. So it's been a wacky uh, start to the year, but I just love how like every team just kind of like adjusted to it and has really adjusted on the fly. So it's been weird, but looking forward to now that a lot of this hurricane weather is pretty much getting out the way. We can actually go and talk about a normal high school football week. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, for example, me and you were both at the UI Rummel game. That was a game that was supposed to be scheduled for Friday,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to cover that for Crescent City Sports. But because everything got switched, I had to cover Lakeshore and Chalmette on Friday, and then UI and Rummel on Saturday. And that went through like two different site changes and like two
Mhm.
different. I mean, it was crazy, just the amount of changes that happened. But there's a lot of great games and everything. But before we get started, we are going. I am going to read off of some of the scores that happened this past weekend before we get everything started. Just give you a refresher of everything that happened Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday. But starting off with this, we got Faraday 46, Block 6, West Waukesha 47, Jonesboro Hod 0, Southwood still trying to achieve their first win since 2019, fell just short to Arcadia 14-7. Huntington beat Captain Shreve 46-35, which was Huntington's first win in 5A in a while. Because remember, they just won 5A for the first time in a
Mhm.
good bit
Yeah.
of time. Lincoln Prep beat Magnolia School of Excellence 48-0. Young Audius Charter 28. Walter L. Cohen 6. Oberlin 50. Oberlin 50. Bolton 6. Del Combre beat Birchman's Academy 47-0. Hamilton Christian beat Highland Baptist 60-7. Haynesville beat Harmony Grove High School in Arkansas 50-24. Ringgold beat Plain Dealing 64-0. Elton beat Northwood Lena 45-6. Delhi 16. Cedar Creek 14. Oakdale lost against Walsh 42-13. Washington Christian is continuing on. Even despite losing a good bit of their stars last year, they just beat General Trask 51-0. Montgomery beat Pickering 46-7. Pope John Paul II beat Farnado 46-8. And by the way, I just realized that I mispronounced Delhi. It's
Yeah,
Delhi or
Delphi.
Delhi?
It's
It's
Delphi.
Delhi, yeah. It's Delhi. I just realized I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I totally mispronounced it. So Delhi 16,
Yeah,
Cedar
and I
Creek
think
14.
I think it's Delcom. I think um, as well. But
Bro, these Louisiana names are confusing. Dude, I've
yeah,
lived here
they
forever.
are.
There's
I think they
some
are.
names that I still can't pronounce, man. It's crazy. But Red River 26, St. Mary's 13, Vinton 40, Maryville 14, Lakeside beat LaSalle 46-22. Oak Grove beat Crossett High School of Arkansas 57-18. Mansfield beat Green Oaks 50-14. Darwin Wood Charter 49. Bearden High School of Arkansas 21. Uh, Delhi Charter beat Lakeview 45-0. DeQuincy beat Lake Arthur 31-14. Opelousas Catholic defeated East Beauregard 55-8. St. Helena 14, East Feliciana nothing. Episcopal, Jace Lejeune, the VSN announcer for Episcopal, all Episcopal events. Episcopal beat North Christian 31-16. Jace, you want to kind of elaborate on that game? Just briefly?
Sure. Yeah, pretty briefly, Grant. So that game, it was crazy. Northlake Christian was up, and this was a big game. Mike Coppage and I were chatting with each other a little bit before the game. This was number 10 and number 11 team he had in 2A. So this was a pretty good measuring stick for really both teams early on. Northlake Christian actually got to an 8-3 lead and really had momentum going to halftime by, again, a interception. Because Episcopal was driving in the red zone, looked like they were going to get some points, and Northlake Christian brought that momentum to halftime. But for whatever reason, Episcopal just woke up in the second half and totally dominated, scoring, I believe, 28, really 31 unanswered points because they were trailing 8-0. So 31 unanswered points from Episcopal. You had touchdown runs from 3 different running backs, Reed Chauvin. You had Nathan Sanchez as well. And then you had David Allen. So dominant performance. Defense really stepped up. The nice defenses looked really good defensively throughout the first 2 games of the season. So big win, huge second half, a dominant second half for Episcopal to get an impressive win on the road against a very talented Northlake Christian team.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, that was a game that was a really highly anticipated matchup in 2A. Northlake Christian has one of the better running backs in the state, and Cam Casanave. And then, of course, Episcopal is returning a solid team as well, with guys like Reed Chauvin returning. And Zach Hugh really has stepped up as a quarterback as well. So I just want, because since we got to that score, I was like, let Jace elaborate on this game because it was a pretty tight game.
Yeah, appreciate it, Grant. Yeah, that was a really good game. Yep.
Yeah, no problem. If you're subscribed to VSN, Jace will call a lot of the games, not only just football but baseball and basketball for Episcopal. But also make sure if you're interested in subscribing to VSN, I believe it's like $11.99, and you can get a lot of games across the state. It's a good deal. It really is.
It is. I actually get to watch a lot of the other streams that are going on because a lot of schools around the state of Louisiana use VSN. Not just Episcopal is just one of the schools that uses it. So I think it's really great. It's a great platform. And because the high school athletes, they always love to go back and watch their games being broadcast and hear their names being called. So it is pretty cool for them to go back and be able to watch a whole game being broadcasted. So it's great what VSN is doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love VSN. They do a great job of providing coverage of high school sports around the state, and you also get it for $11.99 a month, which is actually not a bad deal considering the amount of schools that are use VSN, but it's also growing as well. That's a big shout out to Eric Ritchie and what he's done over there at VSN. But going on to the rest of the scoreboard, Sterlington 49, Rayville 6, Delta Charter 18. Is it Vidalia or Vidalia?
Vidalia.
Vidalia, okay. 18-8. Yeah, I just want to make sure. I don't want to mispronounce names and everything. Notre Dame 51, Bill Platt 0, Beekman Charter 34. Okay, is that Tensas?
Tensas. Yep.
Tensas. Okay, 34-0. East Iberville 28, Capital 14. Basile, is that Basile?
Yep.
Okay, I was making sure 20. Mamu 18. North Webster 14. North Cato 6. Sacred Heart 45. Pine Prairie 12. Mangum 28. Richwood 0. Church Point 22. Marshville 20. Catholic Point Capee 54. Crowley 12. Iota 30. Kinder 20. Gina 52. Holy Savior Menard 6. Jewel Sumner 20. Kentwood 14. Albany 39. Sarah T. Reed 33. Winfield 22. Caldwell Parish 7. Northwood Shreveport 47. Peabody 21. Northwest 50. Rain 14. That's a pretty big win for Northwest. Pretty lopsided. Rain's a decent team too, so it seems like Northwest is continuing its run from last year when they had a Cinderella run where they advanced all the way to the semifinals, but fell just short. Of course, the semis, as I just mentioned, to Cecilia, who's also a great program as well.
Shout out Jayan Chavis real quick, Grant. He was pretty impressive for Northwest. 11 for 12 244 yards for him through the air, 4 touchdowns, also had a rushing touchdown. So pair him with Kevon Johnson, Northwest is going to be very dangerous.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that was a huge pickup they got with the transfer of Kevon Johnson from St. Edmunds. So Northwest is, they seem to be better than they were last year, which is pretty incredible. Incredible stuff, what they're doing over there at Northwest High School in the Opelousas area. And really, the whole area of Opelousas is really booming with football. But St. Michael the Archangel, 46. Terra, 0. Leesville, 49. And Tioga, 32. But Xavier Ford, the running back for Leesville, ran for 400 yards in that game. Incredible performance by him, and he's the next great running back to come out of Leesville High School.
Yeah, and granted,
which is high school that's just go ahead.
I was just going to say he's already had a season's worth through 2 games. He's had 700 yards and I believe 12 touchdowns. That's a season's worth, and we've only been through 2 games of work. So it's incredible what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's a lot of great running backs coming on Leesville. I mean, Michael Ford, Cecil Collins. I mean, there's a couple others I think I had. Yep. There's a lot of running backs that come out of high school. So, he's just the latest one. Also, Kevin Mawai also went to Leesville too.
Yeah,
he's not running back, but
he paved the way for running backs.
Oh yeah, most definitely. North Iberville, 43, Livonia, 20, Loyola Prep, 28, Logansport, 6, Neville, 42, Calvary, 38, which is a game we'll cover in just a moment, actually. Minton, 39, Homer, 14, Center High School of Texas, 35, North DeSoto, 28, Buckeye, 23, Grant, 14, Little Cypress in Mauriceville, Texas, 45, Iowa, 26, Estruma, 38, McKinley, 6, DeRitter, 37, Manny, nothing, Jennings, 34, Eunice, nothing, St. Frederick, Franklin Parish, 42, St. Frederick, 21, JFK, 36, Warren Easton, 26. That's a game we'll also talk about a little bit later in the show. Bastrop, 40. Booker T. Washington, Shreveport, 14. Bossier, 28. Glenbrook, 9. Vermilion Catholic, 45. Brobridge, 0. Walker, 34. Woodlawn of Baton Rouge, 14. Pineville, 35. Avoyles, 20. Ruston, 49. Cabot High School in Arkansas, 10. Turlings Catholic, 48. Sam Houston, 21. Slidell, 34. Livingston Collegiate, 12. Sulphur, 34. Northside, 19. Lafayette, 26. St. Martinville, 14. Liberty, 72. White Castle, 26. Dunham, 27. Live Oak, 10. Mandeville, 52. Madison Prep, 43. Ouachita Parish, 25. Wasman, 0. Parkway, 51. Woodlawn, 6. John Curtis, 27. North Shore, 7. George Washington Carver, 32. L.W. Higgins, 12. Dutchtown, 31. Ponchatoula, 13. East Ascension, 38. Salmon, 15. Bell Chase, 24. East Jefferson, 17. Evangel Christian, 45. Natchitoches Central, 7. Bond Blue, 31. Madison Prep, 0. Parkview Baptist, 53. Prairie View, 13. Prairieville.
Prairieville, yeah, Prairieville. Yep.
Yeah, and I had a tongue twister. That's all. That's what happened. I was like, yeah, it's kids. I have to slow it down when I say that because it's just a lot. Because I almost said Prairieville. I keep wanting to say Prairie View.
Yeah, right. Prairie View ain't.
Right, yeah. Hammond, 33. Amite, 16. Covington, 32. Franklinton, 21. Fisher, 36. Brent Franklin, 27. C.E. Bird, 49. Houghton, 14. So another big win for the Yellow Jackets. I mean, last week they beat St. Amand on the road. This week they blew up, a Houghton team that might be one of the sleepers in the district. I mean, that district's really tough. So getting a big 49-14 win over any of the teams in that district is a pretty good win in my opinion. Lafayette Christian, 38. Carringer, 21. Catholic of Baton Rouge, 18. St. Thomas More, 14. Another game we'll talk about later. Central Baton Rouge, 31. Denham Springs, 6. Lakeshore, 45. Chalmette, 21. Airline 55, Benton 28, Alexandria 41, Union Parish 12, Pulaski Academy in Arkansas 67, West Monroe 47, Pine 41, Independence 13, Lafayette Renaissance Charter 42, Abbeville 13, Guided 48, Gaydon. Oh my God, that's I'm learning, guys. I'm really learning. I lived in Louisiana for a long time. There's still some names where I'm still having like, oh my God. I mean, oh boy. But I'm glad Jace is here because he knows a lot. Yeah. South Flack 27. Bogalusa 6. Bunkie 55. St. Louis Catholic 10. Pearl River 64. South Lafourche 22. Laranger 56. St. Thomas Aquinas 7. Vanderbilt Catholic 28. John Eric 13. Brother Martin and St. Paul's. Brother Martin won 38-28. Like that's another game we'll talk about later. New Iberia 42. Franklin 6. Sophie B. Wright 48. Patrick Taylor 34. Erath 21. North Vermilion 15. West Feliciana 7. Bel Air 6. Jesuit 22. E.D. White 15. Barb 34. Lake Charles College Prep 28. Catholic New Iberia 56. Como 6. St. Martin's Episcopal 36. Westminster Christian 17. Grand Lake 27. Rosebine 0. Donaldsonville 21. Port Island 17. South Beauregard 38. Washington Marion 14. Ascension Episcopal 31. Archbishop Hannon 7. Port Barry 34. Boat Chain 0. Archbishop Rummel 13. U High 7. That's another game we'll talk about later. St. Aug 58. Cecilia 34. Huge win for the Purple Knights, Jace. Huge, very huge win. Especially that considering Cecilia is a state runner-up. And next week they'll play one of the top teams from the state of Missouri, which, you know, that's it. And that's got to be another. If they win that one, I mean, we're looking at possibly state title contender because, I mean, that's, you know, that's a pretty impressive win. Has Cecilia, and then, I mean, if they win this next few games, I mean, that's a pretty tough schedule that the Purple Knights have. And I'm really high on these Purple Knights, so I'm really excited to see what they do next week. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're familiar with both programs, and we're also really familiar with Cecilia, and you know how good they could possibly be this year. We're treating a lot of the players. You know, Jace, you want to elaborate that just briefly before we move on? We're almost done.
Yeah, I mean, St. Aug's offense. I mean, their quarterback. I mean, I believe he had 6 touchdowns in their game. I know they scored 8 touchdowns. I think 7 on offense. They had another one special teams. So their offense is really explosive. And then when you have Cecilia, you know, the Diesel Solari and that crew, you know they're going to score points. And for them to score 34 and still lose by 24, that was impressive to me. And really, the coach Robert Valdez era at St. Augustine, you know, I thought it was a slam dunk hire. The hire Robert Valdez, and they've always been a team that's been, you know, every single week they can get you any given Friday night. But I think what Coach Valdez is going to bring to this group is consistency. And when you do that, you bring that to a talented team, a talented program like St. Aug. Boy, watch out. They've always been a sleeping giant, and I think they're finally awake.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. I mean, people forget how great St. Aug was during the 70s and especially in the 80s and 90s. I mean, and they also had a little run with Leonard Fournette, but it's been a little while since we've seen St. Aug, you know, be a dominant program, be a team that, you know, you always expect to go far in the playoffs. It's been a really long time. You know, maybe not like 20, 30 years, but it's been a little while where we've seen consistent teams from St. Aug that just go far in the playoffs. But, you know, a coach like Robert Valdez, I mean, not only does it raise the expectations, which have always been high at St. Aug, by the way, but also bringing in a state championship caliber head coach. I mean, Coach Valdez has won at every single spot he's been at. I mean, we kind of know his resume. I mean, led West St. John to a state title game.
Yeah.
And, you know, went to Scotlandville, won there. Went to St. James, won a state championship in 2019. Yeah. I mean, he's a very, he's a very accomplished head coach, and
Yeah,
it wouldn't
he's won
surprise me.
Premier
Staying
Third.
off, it wouldn't surprise me in 5 years that he would lead the Purple Knights back to the state title game for the first time in a good bit. I mean, if you really think about, because it's been a little while since the Purple Knights have been in the Dome, but when they do get there, I think that'll be a long, successful run for the Purple Knights under our Robert Valdez. But moving on to the rest of the scoreboard, Westminster Christian of Lafayette, 43, Thrive Academy, nothing. Essentially Christian, 43, Central Private, 42, St. Edmund, 54, Thomas Jefferson, 19, Baker, 32, Glen Oaks, 26, Metairie Park Country Day, 23, The Willow School, 20, Westlake, 56, LaGrange, 14, Archbishop Shaw, 49, West Jefferson, nothing. And to give you a fun fact about, West Jefferson, they've been out. Well, not really. I wouldn't say it's a fun stat. It's kind of I don't know how you kind of explain it, but they've been outscored 100-0 in the first 2 games of the year. Like that's tough. I mean, that's a really tough. I mean, I know that it's not really a fun stat, but I mean that's
not fun for West Jeff.
It's not fun. Yeah, I mean it's a very sad but fun. I don't know how you explain it. I mean, getting scored 100-0. I mean, at least a sour taste in your mouth. I mean, you don't want that to happen to anybody, really. But Holy Cross 42, De La Salle 13, Acadiana 43, Zachary 28, which is another game we'll talk about later. Helix Mentorship Academy 36, Northeast 14, Assumption HL Bourgeois 39, Assumption 27, Destrehan 31, Bonneville nothing, Covenant Christian 42, South Terrebonne 7, Plaquemine 52, Scotlandville 36, and you can tell these are all the games that have gotten canceled.
What kind of week is been?
Yeah, I mean look at all those games that got canceled. I mean that's at least 20 to 30 games right there. But the reason why I wanted to show this to you guys is because this is the scoreboard we do over here at Crescent City Sports. So if you ever want to get updates for all the games from across the state, Jude Young, he uploads the scores up here whenever those scores could come in, so we can update them. But it's a great resource to have on Friday nights, and this is something I kind of want to promote because the last time we did the scoreboard, I didn't really promote this, but this is a great resource to have for all your updates for high school sports across the state, especially in the New Orleans area. But Jace, let's get go ahead.
One more thing about that is like whenever I'm like calling games for VSN and I want to get some scores, that's where I go to just check out what's happening here and what's happening with that game. So I definitely check out Crescent City Scoreboards. Because it's really informative. Yeah, so it's really informative, and it's a really nice look too. So I even get through halftime, they update scores and stuff. So it's not just final scores; they keep you updated throughout the game. So it's a really good tool, especially when I'm trying to figure out who's doing good and what teams are doing good and what's the stats of their game. I just go across the city and find out their scoreboards.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it for a while, and it's also fun to. I've used it for a while, when I was a fan, and now since I'm covering high school sports and also work for Crescent City Sports, I want to make sure I promote that as much as possible because I think a lot of people in New Orleans know about it, but for around the state, you want to know what's going on across the state. It's a great resource to have to get I wouldn't say constant updates because obviously it's hard to get 150 games each and every Friday night to get because sometimes you probably have to wait until they come off of Twitter for the final score before you have them on. But it's a great resource to have for a lot of the schools around Louisiana to get kind of an idea of what's going on. So I love it. So do you, Jason. So like I said, great resource to have. I want to make sure I wanted to promote that. And now, finally, after painful, I guess 20 minutes. I don't know how long I did that. Let's talk about some high school games. Let's break down some. All right, so first game let's talk about was a game that happened on Thursday. Huntington beat Captain Shreve 46-35 to open up district play. This is the first time, I believe this is the first win Huntington has had as a 5A program a little bit. They've been in 4A the last few years. And there's no better way to do it than against the team that won the District 158 last year, Captain Shreve. Captain Shreve's head coach is actually used to be the defense coordinator over there. Huntington, I believe his name is Jeremy Wilburn. You want to correct me, Jace?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So, yeah, and so it's a big win for huge win for the Raiders, especially when the way to open up district play, which is a district that's very tough. And Huntington's always been a pretty good team with a lot of great athletes. I know they lost one of their better players, Caleb Tucker, to Calvary Baptist this season, but they still returned a good bit. They returned some great players from last year.
Mm-hmm.
But before I break down the stats, I want to show this clip. Jace, I'm not sure if you've seen this or not.
Is it Coach Dennis after the game?
Yes. Yeah. I think we have to share it. We have to share this. So this is Coach Dennis after the game. This is the best. If you want to see what football's like in Louisiana, this is it. Let me play it.
O-line and D-line is the backbone. Our running backs are our backbone. These kids, I've said it and I'm going to keep saying it. They have worked their butt off since January. We're coming. We got to earn it every week. We know it. But, baby, we're 1-0 right now. We're going to enjoy it, and we're going to work to be 1-0 again.
Coach, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Coach, I don't know. I'm running out of energy. Alma mater.
Hit the bell.
Alma mater.
Coach, that working out this summer, working out in the heat like you guys did, how much did that pay off tonight?
I think it was a big component. We can't control some of the elements that we had to deal with the construction on campus and things like that. But to buy into that, and these kids didn't flinch. They just showed up and worked every day. Now, the biggest thing we got to understand is this is one game. It's one game. We're 1-0. Have fun tonight. Flush it. We got a tough Benton team next week.
Coach, welcome to District 158.
That's nothing better than that, Jace. What a great win for that Huntington team. I'm going to break down the stats. So Huntington had 621 total yards. 416 of those were on the ground. Cameron Davis was the leading rusher, 18 carries, 484 yards and 2 touchdowns. Niles Hullaby had 17 carries for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. Landon Gibbs, the quarterback, 11 for 19 for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then also had 9 rushes for 50 yards and a touchdown. And Captain Shreve did well on offense too. They had 429 total yards. 206 of those were rushing yards. 223 were passing. But just outstanding display of offense. Like how it always is with those Street 4 schools. Get a lot of high octane offense. Maybe a little more. They probably should play a little more defense. I get some people, it may not be their taste. I'm screwing. I'm an offensive guy. I love the one that's like a lot of fireworks going on. Yeah, I like defense too, but there's nothing better than watching offenses just do their thing. There's nothing that the defense can do. But Jace, what do you have to say about this game and also the interview we just saw after the game with Coach Dennis?
Well, that interview right there, Grant, is 100% genuine Stephen Dennis. That is 100%. He's not faking that. Like, that is pure Stephen Dennis. And Coach Dennis does a great job. Like, he just truly invests in this program. You can tell he cares. He cares about the school. He cares about the players. Like, he's all in on it. He's always been really an advocate for his players, an advocate for his team. So this is a guy, like, before he even showed up, Huntington wasn't really a program that not a lot of people talked about, but now they're getting recognition. So he's making sure those kids believe, and that was a type of game where he's going to get his kids to believe. Anytime you can defeat a team like Captain Shreve, they had a great regular season last year. They're the number 2 seed heading into the playoffs. Captain Shreve has produced a lot of great players the last couple of years. So that's always a big win, and no matter how it looks. And this was an offense. Huntington's always had great offensive players, whether it's like the quarterback position. They have some good running backs, receivers. You talk about Caleb Tucker transferring to Calvary Baptist. They've always had great skill guys, and they can score points. So This was a game that both teams, they have a bunch of really good skill athletes, and Huntington was just able to outlast them, outduel them. But yeah, that interview right there, that is 100% genuine Stephen Dennis right there. So you love it for him. You love it for that program, that team, and it's great to get a big marquee win really to start the season off.
Oh yeah, no doubt, Jace. I mean, great marquee win. I mean, here's the thing: if in that district, if you want to, that's a very tough district. So you want to get as many wins as early as possible because you're going to play I believe 7, 8 district games because there's about like 7, 8 teams in that district. So even 9. I don't know. There's a lot of teams in that district alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially how tough it is, gain a win over Captain Shreve as a start because it's only going to get tougher later on because every game is going to be a dogfight in that district. But Huntington is a team is well coached. They put up points, and they're not really afraid. Not really afraid of anybody. You saw that with Coach Dennis right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a hell of a coach and really motivates his guys to go out there and play their best. So picking up a win against a team like Captain Shreve, and then also beating the guy that you meant that you were a mentor to the last few years. How long he's been there. Oh, it's always good to beat on your assistants, your former assistants, right? That's what Saban did forever. Saban, I believe he only lost like 2 times to his assistants a lot. I think he was like 26-2 against his former assistants. So
that's why
it's always fun to
away. You can't give away everything. You can't give away all the secrets, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But moving on, let's talk about another game. This one happened on Friday night. So, there's a lot of games we're playing on from Thursday through Sunday because the Hurricanes. A lot of craziness going on.
Mm-hmm.
But JFK, I mean, if you want to talk about a program that everyone is sleeping on, even though we all know how good they are, it's JFK. I've said this from the beginning since we started this podcast that JFK is a legit state title contender.
Mm-hmm.
People just don't know about it yet.
Right.
And they showed it against Warren Easton.
Yeah.
Warren Easton, of course, has been a program led by Jerry Phillips. Has done it like the last 10, 15 years has been the power they've been to the state championship game 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're one of the winningest programs in New Orleans the last 10 years. JFK, when Coach Linares Elpage took over in 2020, it was during COVID. They only had 23 players on the team, and somehow they made it to the playoffs. Now they're coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons, winning the district twice, going to the quarterfinals back-to-back. I mean, 2022 was the first time we went to the quarterfinals in the school's history. And then they went back to it last year where they lost a really close game to Shaw. I mean, also you got to think about this too. This is like the school JFK was closed for a while, and then it reopened as Lake Area Tech. Then they changed it back to JFK. It's like there's a lot of history with that school.
Yeah,
a lot of community support for people who attended that school before it's closed down due to the Hurricane Katrina. But it kind of give you a little backstory about JFK.
Yeah,
but they not only did they beat Warren Easton. I mean, we talked about this. We both picked Warren Easton, and the podcast episode that was canceled because of all the craziness going on. Mm-hmm. But I also said it wouldn't shock me if JK ended up beating Easton.
Mm-hmm.
However, it shocked me how they beat Easton, and they beat him by double digits. Mine Darnsburg, 187 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, 11 rushes for 62 yards. James Evans had 3 total touchdowns, 2 receiving, 1 rushing. Kinston Jones, he had 2 touchdown receptions of 83 and 67 yards. But Warren Easton, they have a bad game as well. Thomas Vaughn had another fantastic game, rushing 27 times for 181 yards and had 2 total touchdowns. And Carl Reed had 7-16 for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns before he had to leave early in the third quarter because of injury. But Jace, what's to say about the JFK Cougars?
Yeah, Grant, you mentioned about that they were a sleeper, and but they've been a quarterfinal team the last couple of years. I think the reason why, they have all the tools needed to be a state championship team this year. I think the reason why people don't really know about them is because the brand, right, is not a big brand name when you talk about. I mean, comparing to Warren Easton, Neville, a team like the St. Thomas More, just an overall brand name, right? So when you beat a team that has a brand name like Warren Easton that's proven it and been in the Superdome, it's going to open a lot of people's eyes. And even though they made some great runs under Coach L. Page, and he's done a phenomenal job of building this program up and getting them to be a state championship contender, but it has to take for like just a general fan, like you're just your average high school fan in Louisiana, to say, hey, oh, these guys are for real, is when you defeat a team like Warren Easton that everybody pretty much knows about. And so getting that marquee win over a big brand name, now people are like, oh, okay, like this JFK team is for real now. And they needed that. You mentioned on my podcast, right, that this win could be the biggest, pretty much win of their history, being a team like Warren Easton. So now, can they handle that success? That's going to be like, can they handle the noise? They're going to have another tough task. We're actually, me and you, we're going to be seeing JFK this week when they play Sam All in the Pit, which is always a very tough place to play. And, Coach Oliver's always going to get his team ready to play. I'm sure we'll talk more about it for a preview of the week. But that's going to be the next step for this program. You talk about their quarterback. He's really good. He's been playing the last couple of years. He's already a program grade over there. They got weapons to throw the football to. They got great skilled athletes, and it's going to be fun to see this team because they do have the pieces to challenge and make a run to the Superdome for the first time ever.
Yeah, and just kind of a quick notes on that JFK St. Amand game. JFK actually lost to St. Amand there in a very close game. I mean, really could have gone either way. And I believe, hold on, let me pull up the final score from last year. They lost. It was like really close. It was like, it was 20-14. It was actually the only loss JFK had up until the playoffs. So, I mean, I think JFK, I think that when really JFK last year, I think this year's team might be is actually better because this year's team's obviously more experienced than they were last season, right? A lot of those guys are coming back, including most of the passing attack, there's a line of scrimmage. JFK also has some great defensive players as well. Calvin Sparrow's a hell of a linebacker. Yeah. Ernest Lyons is an Alcorn State commit, so they got dudes.
They won talent
upside the ball. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also San Marcos got
Bernard Causey too, and that shows you how good this team is.
Right, and St. Amand actually has some great players as well. I mean, you got Caleb Ricks, is the younger brother of Eli Ricks. Mm-hmm. They got got some pretty good players over there at St. Amand as well. But here's another fun fact for you. So Linares was played at Tulane 99 through 2002. Right. Great player, as I mentioned in your podcast. He's in the Tulane Hall of Fame. I mean, he was a great punt returner, a great defensive back. But you want to know something else too?
What is that?
David Oliver was actually an assistant on those Tulane teams when Linares was there.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a former player versus former coach kind of a deal. And and also a fun fact, Linares was recruited by my dad at Tulane, and obviously Coach Oliver was a colleague of my dad at Tulane. So
makes sense why that non-district matchup was set up. Anyway, that the history between them two, it makes a lot of sense a lot of times and stuff like that.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. And that was a huge part of it. But also, Coach Oliver loves playing against teams like teams from New Orleans because he knows those teams are tough, and he also really respects what Linares has done at JFK. And we've talked about me and him talked about this before. Linares has done a great job with that program. They run a clean program. They don't make too many mistakes. They're just a well-disciplined program. And that, JFK, I mean, it's like coaches know this. Like a lot of coaches know about JFK. We're just like, I feel like a lot of people should be talking about them more. And there's a reason for that. I mean, obviously JFK is not like a brand team like a Warren Easton, a Carr, a Brother Martin, a Rummel. You get it.
Right.
Because they're in an area that has a lot of teams, well-established programs. JFK is still sort of a new program in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. Like I just mentioned the history, like reforming the school, changing the names, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But, Linares Lopez has done a great job, and I think really he should be up for Coach of the Year at the end of the year because considering what he's done. Really, I mean, I mean, they could have a chance to finish the regular season undefeated. I mean, they could also be St. Paul's. I mean, they have enough talent to.
Yeah.
I mean, St. Paul's a great team too. Like, St. Paul's not some slouch. St. Paul's a great team.
Yeah.
So if you finish the non-district undefeated, 5-0, I mean, who knows what damage you could do in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Right.
And seeding's always going to be key. You know, if you go through, definitely, obviously, if you go through the regular season undefeated, you know, it's going to really set you up to make that deep run. So that's always very important, and you know that can really set up in the Cougars' favor down the road.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Moving on. Let's talk about another game that happened in South Louisiana. Catholic-Baton Rouge at St. Thomas More. Another defensive battle, which is pretty shocking considering, you know, St. Thomas More is known as the offensive juggernaut. Catholic, of course, a lot of great players on offense, but Catholic won this game 18-14. Baylor Grace had another great game for this, you know, another great game for the young quarterback, going 13 for 18 with 133 yards and a touchdown, and then also rushed 12 times for 77 yards. Amari Clayton was the one who caught Baylor Graves' only touchdown pass, 4 catches for 64 yards to go along with that. So, the Jace, what do you have to say about this Catholic defense? Because this is the second straight week in a row where they shut down one of the better offenses in the state. I mean, Cole Bergeron couldn't really do anything against this Catholic defense. I mean, it says a lot. You know, for what they, you know, and it's really important that they're this good because you still have a young offense, right?
Yeah, I mean this defense, and we kind of knew it. I mean, I saw them in the spring and got a chance to really watch them. You knew that this was going to be a team that's going to rely on its defense, and it's going to rely on its running game as well. And you can just tell that. I mean, they're big up front on the offensive line. Irv Smith, I mean, Louisiana Tech commit, leading the way. Blaze Thomas, he's getting all kinds of Division I offers. Jan Miles he's only a sophomore, already getting a bunch of Power 5 Division I offers as well. So you knew that they were going to run the football, and when they do need to throw the football, they can throw it up to Mr. Go Get It, right? That's his kind of nickname, Amari Clayton. So this is a really tough, hard-nosed football team defensively. You know they're great in the back end with the Bradford brothers kind of leading the way. And they can hit you. I mean, they're physical. I saw them in the jamboree against Mass and Prep, and they will lay the wood. I mean, I saw it up on the sidelines, and you can just hear everything. Like, they come with some bad attention. So this is a team that's physical defensively. They can run the football, and when you do that, they played against Destrehan, right? I mean, and St. Thomas More. I mean, back-to-back statement wins. These are two teams that don't lose often. I mean, Destrehan had a 33-game regular season winning streak, and I think St. Thomas More had a 25-game winning streak. So they don't lose often, especially at their place. And for them to do that, I actually didn't have Catholic ranked this high, but I mean, especially not top 5. But considering the wins they've had to start the season, you have to mention them there because they've had as good of a pair of wins to start the season against Destrehan, against St. Thomas More. You're going to have to put them out there. And those are 2 statement wins from Coach Fuller and the squad. They're saying, hey, we may have lost some key guys like Daniel Beal and some offensive key players from last year, but we're still the defending state champions, and we're here to stay. And no other team, I think, through 2 weeks has made as strong a statement as the Catholic High Bears have done through 2 weeks.
I mean, yeah, Jace. I mean, remember around this time last year, obviously, I mean, you know, last year they started off the season 1-3. As you remember, yeah, they got the big win in Picayune in overtime, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next 3 weeks they get blown out by Warren Easton at home, 49-26. Then they lose to U High, and one of the craziest endings I've ever seen.
Oh, and one of the greatest.
And you were both there.
Yeah,
we were both there side by side during that game. And then you lose in the final seconds to St. Thomas More as well. So you lost 3 nail-biting games. But then the rest of the way, they went undefeated and went on to win the state championship this year. With a team that wasn't not nearly as good as they were last year, right? That was a very experienced team that Catholic had last year. You don't have the same experience you had last year, yet you're still pulled off two huge wins against Destrehan and St. Thomas More, which is the same team you lost against last year. So it says a lot about how good this defense is. Now we need to see the offense kind of step up a little bit because you can't keep scoring 20 points and 18 points, right? You have to eventually score more points. And I think they will. They'll get better over time. Of course, you got a young quarterback back there. I mean, you got a lot of young players on the offense. But I think as the season goes on, the offense will pick up as well. But again, you can't necessarily rely on the defense to win your games all the time, But I'm not really worried about that right now because I think they'll improve. But as you get later in the season, it has to step up eventually.
And I think it will happen. I mean, at this point in the year, you pretty much expected the first 2 or 3 games that Catholic was going to rely on their defense. They're going to rely on their running game, at least for the first part of the season, because I know they're working their quarterbacks. Baylor Graves is pretty much the starter, but I know they're also working in a package for Turner Goldsmith, too, is the other quarterback. So, I mean, Hudson Ford said, hey, we got 4 quarterbacks. We can use them all if we want to. So just trying to find the right mix and the right system for these guys offensively. And, it's good that they're winning these games and they can rely on their defense and run game until you won't have to eventually figure that out down the road.
Yeah, exactly. But, we're both in agreement there. I think this offense right now is kind of a little worrisome, but I'm not really looking too hard into it because we both know that they're going to get better over time, just like they were last year, right? But they will have a big game against U High next week, so I think that will be another kind of a defensive battle. Both teams have really good defenses, and so I expect that one to be a defensive battle up there at Memorial Stadium in a rematch from last year's crazy ending.
And before you move on, Grant, I think it's kind of a reverse from last year because U High, they're 1-1, but it's been a little bit of a struggle for them to start the season. So if they can have that type of win like last year, right? That can help turn around their season. I mean, they're 1-1, but I'm sure it hasn't looked pretty when you scored 10 points in 2 games. So I know that they're going to try to get things back going against Catholic. If they can find a way to upset the Bears, then they're going to be right back on track, and I know the Cubs are going to be really excited. So this is going to be a huge turn point for the Cubs this Friday.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And now let's move on to, speaking of U High.
Great segue. Yep.
Yeah, great segue. Now let's talk about that game against U High and Rummel. Of course, we were both at the game. Jace was filling in for VSFN, doing the play-by-play duties for U High. I was there representing Crescent City Sports. That was the game that was scheduled to report for Crescent City Sports. And then also Ken Trahan's original prep report that they do 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. if you're in the New Orleans area. You could also listen to it online, also wherever you may get your radio stations because, they branch out a lot. But that was the game I was supposed to report there to give live updates and everything. But that game was moved to Saturday. The Hurricane Francine, U High, and Rummel want to get their practices in, and which is all. And speaking of practice, I think that was a huge reason why JFK was able to be Easton because Easton did not practice from Tuesday to Thursday. They went like, all right, screw it, we're going to play this game right away. I think we think that maybe if they had their practice, they probably could have beat JFK, but we don't know, right? We don't know. We're doing hypotheticals now, But they want to both teams want to get their practice in to kind of prepare for the game, go for some film stuff, blah, 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 blah. And that game was supposed to be played at U High. Then the game was supposed to be moved to Joe Yenny. Then they just moved the game from Friday to Saturday. Then it went from Joe Yenny to U High for 6 p.m. It was a whole mess, right? Like I was trying to figure out. I was texting both Coach Martin and got information from Jay Roth, who's the AD, and also future Hall of Fame head coach. From Rummel, won 2 state championships there.
Right.
And then also Nick Monica, right? I was trying to get as much information where this game is going to be played. And Ken Trahan was also filling me in because he's a huge Rummel guy.
Sure,
right? So he went to Rummel. Very huge Rummel guy. So luckily, I was able to figure out where the game was played. They all got figured out. They played a game. On the way there, I mentioned the podcast. On the way there, there was a huge rainstorm. Got a free car wash. Can't complain there.
Yeah, no.
I get there, I was like, oh, the sun's out. It's dry.
Mhm.
It's a great day of football. Midway through the game, like the press box is flooding. Like Jace is trying to protect the equipment. Will Franquez, who does the PA announcing for U High, who's also the son of LSU baseball SID, Bill Franquez. So it runs in the family, basically. But even he's like, I don't get paid enough to get to drown in a in a flood in the press box. Like, so like I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, what did I get myself into? Like, we're all gonna die here.
Yeah, that was rough.
It was a rough. Enough of our grievances. Let's talk about the game.
Yeah,
Rummel has another statement win. This time a 13-7 win over U High. Very impressive performance by U High's Rummel's defense. They held that U High offense to 135 yards. I know they're missing a couple of their players, but anytime you hold an offense that has that much talent to 135 yards, really impressive. But also the game ball. If I had to do a game ball, not only would I give it to Rummel's defense as a whole, but I'll also give it to Gennaro Buckich, Rummel's quarterback.
Yeah,
9 for 15, 144 yards, and a touchdown. He also ran for 49 yards on 3 carries. I mean, just a huge focal point in that offense. He was awesome doing play action passes, and he really managed the game well.
Yeah.
Especially in that rain pour. I mean, you had to win the game. You had to manage the game. You had to do whatever you could to win the game, and he did that. But Jace, I mean, what are your observations about that game? I know I already had my observations, but you're there as well. But what were your observations about the game? What does this game mean for both teams moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, Rummel, you have to be excited, right? And we talked about it on our show, but you have to be excited if you're Coach Monica about how your team has won through 2 games. It shows you if you can win games multiple different ways, that shows you that you're a good football team. And that's what Rummel did through their first 2 games. They won a shootout against LCA when there's not many teams out there that can actually do that. Just go pound for pound with LCA and try to outscore them. They did. This game, it was an old-fashioned slobber knocker, right? It was 13-7. That was pretty much the score at halftime. And Rummel was able to have a great defense performance. They were leaning on their ground game as well. Buggage, their quarterback, made plays when they needed him to make plays. Didn't turn the ball over. I thought that was key as well. That was a great performance all the way around, and tough conditions on the road. And I mean, I talked to Kevin George, who interestingly enough called the game with me, is a U High director, and we were having a conversation. Whatever team makes the less mistakes, it wasn't about what team executed more, especially in the second half, but what team made less mistakes with that weather and dealt with it a little bit better was going to win that game. And it just so happened to be Rummel. They were able to get a couple of stops defensively. I thought my player of the game, I know Gennaro Buggers was definitely a great pick for sure, because he got those 2 touchdown drives, got them there when it was really yardage was really tough to come by for both teams. I thought both defenses played really well in that game. But Frederick Banks, to me, I mean, he was pretty much on block one. Then this is a great U High offensive line, and Frederick Banks pretty much blew up pretty much a lot of the plays that night. He was my key guy for me. But yeah, I mean, huge win for Rummel. I know U High wanted to get revenge on Rummel from the previous year after they beat them at similar score, right? I mean, at this point of the year last year. So it was huge for this Rummel team to really go on the road, really tough conditions. And this is conditions that U High actually already played. I actually asked Coach Martin about this, that playing in if it's tough weather, you already played in tough conditions against Woodlawn, if that was going to be an advantage if it came down to you already played in tough conditions already. But Rummel was able to do so, and Rummel was able to win. So they found a way to win. I knew obviously the weather played a factor in the second half and how how much of a defensive battle it was, but it was a defensive battle as well in the first half. So big win for Rummel. U High, I know it's they're 1-1, but I know that they want to get their offense back on track. I mean, scoring 10 points in 2 games, and they're capable, right? Emil Picarello is one of the top quarterbacks in the state, but I think the thing that we haven't really talked about is trying to replace Granville Anderson and Seth Gale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yep.
this part of the season, early in the year, I think they're trying to find, okay, which guys can we consistently rely on in the receiving game? And that's what U-High is trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, and they also lost a running back, correct? His name's not coming up to the top of my head, but they also lost their starting running back from last year, who's a pretty solid one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have to rely on some younger guys, and the Sage Ingram's a sophomore. Odell is a sophomore as well, so they're relying on some young guys to run the ball. And right now, I mean, they'll get better as the season goes along.
They're talented sophomores. It's just they're young,
right?
Right,
they're young. They're just really young. But that's what happened. But when you lose, they still returned obviously their whole entire offensive line. They returned some key players of defense, but some of those, but on their skill positions, they rely on a lot of younger guys. So that's going to show its face early on. I mean, you've seen it. They had a 3-0 win over Woodlawn, and then they struggled to get points again against
Riley Small. That's what I was thinking of.
Riley Small. Yep, Riley Small.
Yep.
And so they've only scored 10 points throughout the year. I mean, that's lower than what Rummel scored Saturday night.
Yeah.
So
they were still lost 13-10. Yeah.
All right, so I mean, they'll figure it out. I mean, they got talented quarterback, experienced quarterback. He's done this. I mean, he's done this for a while now. I mean, they have some key veterans. I mean, obviously, Keelan Moses is one of them as well. But they'll figure it out. I mean,
I'm not worried.
I'm not. You shouldn't be worried about this year. I think this is a very similar situation to what Catholic experienced last year, as I mentioned. So they'll get better as the season goes along, but a huge statement win for Rummel. They will have another big-time game against Shaw, which is a game we're going to talk about in our previous Week 3 preview show, because that's a game with a lot of huge implications to show how good these two teams really are. I mean, these are two state caliber teams right there. And of course, it's a rematch from last year where Shaw beat the brakes off of Rummel to win their first Megaphone trophies in 15 years. So
you get revenge. Rummel's want to get that revenge next week against Shaw. So that's gonna be big. So big games for probably both teams. So it's gonna be intriguing to follow and watch.
Yep. And moving on to the next game, which ironically has another New Orleans flavor to it. We just talked about Rummel. Now we go to the New Orleans area where Brother Martin and St. Paul has had a thriller of a game. Of course, Carter was there. One of the guys who helps you guys out in the North Shore, in New Orleans area, but especially the North Shore.
Yeah.
And this game was just insane. Bro, St. Paul's had the lead late in the game. They had a 28-24 lead. Very late in the game. They had the game-winning touchdown. It seemingly, but then Brother Martin drove in under a minute and scored on a 46-yard game winner with 6 seconds left to Easton Royal. Easton Royal, one of the top sophomores in the state, regardless of position. He had 6 catches for 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the aforementioned game-winning touchdown.
Right.
Seth Zett was fantastic again as well. 16 for 22, 299 yards for 3 touchdowns and an interception. Brennan Kime had a pretty good game.
Yeah, he did.
20 for 30, 214 yards with a passing and rushing touchdown. But he also had 2 interceptions, right? And that was, he talked a little bit about after the game. I read the article about it after the game on NOLA.com. And, one of the things he mentioned, we should we want to harp on the final drive, but really we made some mistakes early in the game. Brendan's a good quarterback, right? And I think, I mean, his biggest issue was last year was turning the ball over, and he knows that. And he's really improved in that aspect.
Yeah.
But, and I think that's one of the things I like about Brendan is that he's accountable. And he holds accountable for some of the mistakes he has. And really, that's what's made him a better player. So I'm glad he's having the years early on. because the potential was always there. I've known Brennan for a little bit, you're right?
Right.
My dad trained him when he was
Mhm.
in middle school.
Mhm.
When my dad was, took a year to a 2 year sabbatical from coaching because
Right.
he wanted to be around because my little brother's going to senior year of football.
Mhm.
You covered him when you were at when you were with Louisiana Football Magazine, but
Right.
Brennan was always a guy who had a lot of potential. I mean, you guys invited him to the bowl game. Has he accepted is he committed yet or?
He hasn't committed yet, but we're still talking. They're focused on the season right now. But
Right, I know Stone has.
Stone's committed,
Mhm.
and we feel pretty good. Like we haven't confirmed it yet, but it's in the works, and we feel pretty good about Brennan.
Okay, yeah. So, but speaking of another Brennan Villa, he had 6 catches for 121 yards. Stone's lesson had 49 yards of receiving, as we mentioned. I mean, it was a great passing performances from that game, and really the one we always do. So St. Paul's was going to open up the playbook this year, but
Right.
we've always seen Brother Martin as this ground and pound. We'll run the ball to set up the pass. Now it's the exact opposite. We're going to pass the ball to set up the run, and really, it's not even just set to Zed. Hudson Fields the backup. He's a really good quarterback as well.
Mhm.
Coach Benice has made it an emphasis to make sure he gets as much reps as possible because he's going to be the next guy up, right? Once that leaves after this year. So Jace, what's to say about Brother Martin's? I mean, both teams really, but really, Brother Martin's pass attack is deadly, and I knew that going into because I had St. Paul's win this game for a very long time going in the year, but then when I saw the jamboree, I'm like, yo, they may not have a running game yet because of injuries, but my God, they can throw the ball. That's not something we're used to Brother Martin having, really.
Yeah, and St. Paul's. I mean, I talked to Carr a little bit, and Cody Corrales, their running back, he was in a boot, and that's what Carr told me. So hopefully he's back, pretty soon for him because if he gets back in to complement, what's the St. Paul's right now. Brennan Kime is on pace to have the best passing season in school history. So he's having a really good year. He had the 2 interceptions, but he's accountable, like you said. I mean, we were there at the jamboree, and he went up to both of us and say, "Hey, we're not going to disappoint y'all again. Like I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna be better." So that's who he is. That's a good trait to have at the quarterback position. But yeah, Seth Day said, I mean, what a game he had. I mean, both those quarterbacks really going back and forth, right? A little bit of a shootout, and Carr agreed that was a back and forth game, a lot of ups and downs. Brother Martin started hot. I think they went up like 17-3. They really got going early on, and then St. Paul's battled their way back, found themselves up 28-24, and then it was one of those games. Whoever had the ball last was eventually going to win, and with about 5 seconds left in the game, that's when they found Easton Royal, who you just talked about as one of the next up and coming players in New Orleans and South Louisiana as well. And they got a bunch of weapons to throw the football to. So Brother Martin, you got to appreciate them because they've always been great offensively, right? Whether it was Swilling, Bruce Jordan Swilling running the ball back in the day. You mentioned the running backs, right? They've been known for more of their ground game, as well as Lambert as well running the football, and they always got really great running backs at Brother Martin. But being able to air it out, add that little new dimension to them, that says a lot about Brother Martin. And we talked about it. It was a coin flip. I mean, you got it right. You picked Brother Martin to win. I picked St. Paul to win, and it was a coin flip, right? And it was going to come down to the final couple plays, and that's what it ended up being. I even said, like, Grant, it's not technically a Catholic League game, but this has like a Catholic League type of feel, and it's going to be a really big game for both sides, and huge win for Brother Martin. And if you're Brother Martin, you want to especially take it because I mean St. Paul's they don't play in the Catholic League, so they can probably afford this loss a little bit more. But if you're Brother Martin, you're going to have to take these wins because it's just tough. I mean, you just don't know how it's going to fare out in the Catholic League because, I mean, any given week, you're going to have to earn it. So, Brother Martin's certainly going to earn this one, and this is going to be big for the confidence of Coach Bonice's squad moving forward. And a tough, devastating loss for St. Paul's, obviously. to lose like that in the final seconds. I know that can be really tough. So the biggest thing for them, how can they avoid, especially such, losing in the end at the gun like that? How can you prevent that from being 2 losses, right? Like having that same opponent affect you twice during the week. So that's going to be the biggest hurdle to overcome for Coach Sears to regroup the squad moving forward. Look ahead to the next week coming up, and then Brother Martin. That's a huge win for them to start the season 2-0 to get a big win like that. Huge confidence booster for this team because it's going to be tough down the stretch for Brother Martin for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. This is a huge win for Brother Martin, especially knowing what their schedule is looking like the next 7 to 8 weeks, right? Because the Catholic League is probably as tough as it's ever been. And I mentioned before, this is the first time we haven't seen Brother Martin throw like this. Well, it's not like they haven't had good quarterbacks. Jake Broggy, from 2015, 2014 to 2016, he's a 3-year starter. He was a key catalyst for those great teams there where they went to the semifinals throughout 3 years. There were some great, Bruce and Swilling and Irv Smith and Jeremy Singleton. He was a quarterback. And then Gary Mammon had a lot of success there. He was a starter since he was a starter at Brother Martin since the second half of his freshman year. He did a lot of great things, broke a lot of records. But even then, they were a run-first team. This is the first time we really see Brother Martin just throw the ball because they know that's their strength. And they want to run the ball. Of course, don't get me wrong. They want to run the ball. Of course, and then also when of course when Sidney comes back, the running back, they're going to try to run the ball. At least give them some consistency in the backfield. But when you have Easton Royal, you have Rex LeBlanc, who had
Rex LeBlanc was a game. Yep.
Yeah, 5 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Rome Lipscomb, 3 catches for 45 yards. And then also not to mention Brody Dumonte, he was a great receiver as well. They have 4 really good receivers with a lot of ability. So they're going to make sure that they're going to throw the ball down the field because they have the capacity to do that. And also the offensive line was kind of a concern going into the year because they had to replace 4 of those 5 started offensive linemen from the year before. But I also knew that they have Coach Z, and Coach Z, Robert Zering, is one of the best offensive line coaches in the state. They have to do this. They have to do this a good bit where they have to replace a solid bit of the offensive line from the year before, and then they're still just as effective as that group beforehand. So, Brother Martin's always going to be a threat. And really, I don't think that they'll beat Carr, or win the Catholic League, but they're definitely a dark horse like they've always been in the Catholic League. And that's kind of a given with Brother Martin.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. This is a team that you can see in the playoffs, 7-3, 6-4, something like that. But when they made the state championship game just a couple years ago, they weren't like a high seed or anything. They just got hot at the right time. Now they were able to take advantage of a favorable side of the bracket, but they were able to take advantage of it. And I remember having the conversation. I think this was Ricky Collins' senior year as well for Woodlawn, that the winner of, and talking to my boss Andy about it, but the winner of that Brother Martin Woodlawn game, first round game, was going to have the track to make the state championship game. And it was a back and forth game, and Brother Martin was able to pull away. So that was Torrey Lambert's really big game, big run, when you ran 200, 300 yards every game. Yeah. So, Brother Martin's always dangerous. You can't underestimate Coach Bonice and the job that he's done for Brother Martin. And you definitely can't underestimate him. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And before we wrap everything up, Brother Martin will play against a team from Texas. I believe it was Legacy something.
Yeah, I know you mentioned it on my show. It was
let me pull it up. Actually, give me 1 second. It was because they're traveling to Texas. Trying to find the game. Make sure I get there. Hey, the School of Sport. I don't know how to.
Yeah,
they had to have the float in, but it's a school from Texas, right? I'm on ProCitySports.com. Just looking at the school. So, but That school is actually playing a lot of teams in the state of Louisiana. I think they're a newer school. They
Mhm.
actually have one of the better recruits prospects in the country. And then, of course, St. Paul's. They will. I believe they play. Let me see that because St. Paul's they will play. I need week 3. This is still week 2. St. Paul's. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't have this pulled up earlier. But St. Paul's they will play De La Salle. Yeah, I knew they were playing somebody from New Orleans, but yeah, they're but yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, one more thing about that game before we go and talk about another one. I talked to so Brennan's dad, Chad, Brennan Kahn's dad, and he was like, "Man, Jace, I was kind of torn with this game because
he went to Brother Martin.
Yeah, he graduated from Brother Martin.
Yeah,
and his son playing at St. Paul's, so I can imagine what his feelings were throughout those 48 minutes of action. But yeah, I'm sure he would rather have Brennan win the game. At the end of it. But he had a good game. I guess it's like your son have a good game. Brother Martin won. I mean, I guess you can take it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is too, if Katrina doesn't happen, Brennan actually is playing for Brother Martin right now. That's the only reason why he's playing for St. Paul's because after Katrina, they moved back. They settled in Covington, so he just went to St. Paul's. So that's also another interesting fact as well.
Yeah.
Kind of still like how he ended up at St. Paul's and Brother Martin because those Brother Martin parents, they a lot of times they send they're like very strict, like we're sending our kid to Brother Martin, like a lot of Catholic schools,
right,
in New Orleans. But that's the reason why he's playing for St. Paul's and not Brother Martin. But moving on, let's talk about another game that happened in South Louisiana. Acadiana and Zachary, two powerhouse programs, two of the most successful programs in the last 10 to 15 years. Acadiana's won, I believe it was 6 state championships since 2006.
Yeah,
I think that number's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
and then
right.
Zachary's won 4 since I believe it was 2013, 2014. I mean, two very successful programs, two programs that dominated the state the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. And
this is kind of a regular matchup between them in the regular season. But Acadiana won 43-28. Jonah Gaucher, 24 carries for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Caden DeBetta was 3 for 6 for 94 yards and a touchdown, and also 6 carries for 62 yards. And that touchdown was actually thrown to his brother, Colin DeBetta, who's actually one of the better prospects in the class of 2027, similar to Eastern Royal. So, Jace, what does it say about Acadiana? Bounce back win after losing a tough battle against Ruston last week. Even though it's not the same Zachary team that we're accustomed to, still a very good Zachary team, right? So, what are your thoughts about this game and what's it mean for Acadiana moving forward?
Yeah, Acadiana is definitely up there. I mean, they're probably, if you look at it, I mean, maybe the first or second best 1-1 Louisiana team in the state. If you're looking at it, man, offensively, this is like you talk about Acadiana, they're going to run the football, right? And they're going to try to slow down the game for the opposing offenses, right? But they have a guy in Caden that can throw the football. And like you can't just okay, we're going to go all in on the run, stop the run, because if you're sleeping, they're going to beat you through the air because you have Caden, you have Colin, you have Russell Babineau. They can beat you through the air. So you're going to have to defend that. They can obviously run the football like they've always been able to run the football. Jonah Gaucher is a guy that he's been to our gridiron football camps, and he's been a guy who's always been like the third or fourth back the last couple of years. Now he's the guy, and it's great to see him be that guy this year for them, be the feature guy. But Zachary, I mean, you don't want, especially for Zachary, they expect state championships. They expect to be in it every single year. But you don't want moral victories, right? Because this is a young Zachary team with some question marks. But they had the lead on Acadiana entering the fourth quarter. They're up 28-24. They were winning that football game. But Acadiana was just too much for him. You talked about Jonah Gaucher, his couple touchdown runs at the end. But Acadiana is also really like they always are, solid defensively. So this may be Acadiana's probably best overall all-around team, being able to run the football, throw the football, defense, because they play great defense. They can run the football, but having that extra dimension of throwing the football, that's why Acadiana is going to be in it for a state championship. You look at Zachary on their side. Zachary's always dangerous at the end of the year. So beginning of the year, we talk about Zachary. They might take some lumps, but knowing at the end of the year they're going to be there. I mean, David Brereton, since he's been here, probably his worst, quotation marks, worst season at Zachary is if they lose in the quarterfinals. That's how consistent this program has been under David Brereton. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be this team, the Zachary football team. They're going to be better down the stretch. I mean, Caleb Gonzalez is coming in the quarterback position, and he's going to be a good one. Like Zachary's always had pretty good quarterback play, and he had himself a pretty decent game. They got really good receivers as well to throw the football too. So they're going to be just fine. It's just like at this point of the year, Acadiana is a more veteran team. The better team at this point, and that's why the Wrecking Rams are able to get it done. Zachary also had to go on the road and do that too. So you don't want, especially when you're at Zachary, you don't want moral victories, but there's a lot of positives to take away for such a young team to play a team like that, Acadiana, and have the lead in the fourth quarter. Now they're a young team. You just got to learn how to finish these type of games, and Acadiana being the more veteran team at this point, I mean, they knew how to finish it off. So that's going to be the thing moving forward for the Zachary team, but I'm not worried about them. They're going to be right in the mix of it, and they're going to be playing their best football when you should be playing your best football at the end of the year. And Acadiana, after being in the state championship last year, they're going to be right there. They want to get back to the state championship and this time finish the deal under Matt McCullough.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, Jace, this Acadiana team, we've kind of harped on them for, the whole entire time start of this podcast at the beginning of the football season back in, late July, early August, about how great this Acadiana team is all around. I mean, Acadiana, of course, is known as the team that runs the ball because of the veer, but really
Right.
They're also a threat to throw the ball as well. They have a solid quarterback with, Caden DeBetta, and then also the two receivers on the outside with his brother Colin, and of course, his name is escaping me.
Russell Babineau.
Russell Babineau. Yeah. I don't know. I always say his name on point every single time.
Right.
Yeah. I'm off tonight. But Russell Babineau, of course, is the UL commit. I mean, one of the faster players in the state. So this is a deep team on offense and defense. So this is a huge win. Picking up a win against Zachary. Of course, you had a nail biter with Russ the week before, and Russ and Acadiana, of course, one of those teams that will be a favorite to go back to the state title game.
Mm-hmm.
I know Division I selection will be tough with Catholic and St. Thomas More joining, Brother Martin, Carr. I mean, there's a lot of teams. It's probably the deepest that division's been.
Yeah, the division's really been. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because I mean, there used to be only like 16 teams because of the stupid split or whatever.
Right.
But now, thank God, there's like 24 to 30 teams are playing the playoffs. So it's like, so instead of like traveling maybe to the New Orleans area a bunch and maybe to Baton Rouge to go play Catholic of Baton Rouge, you travel to Shreveport, you travel to Lafayette. I mean, I like how
it feels like a playoff. Right.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. It doesn't feel like the regular season,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
But anyway, last game before we wrap everything up. Another big time game. We're going up to North Louisiana for the first time. A lot of the North Louisiana teams, as I was going down the scoreboard at the beginning of the show, a lot of those teams played in Arkansas. A lot of those teams played Arkansas teams and maybe a couple of teams from Texas. So I didn't really want to talk about those games because unless it was like let's say, for example, Evangel beat IMG, then we'll probably talk about that. But I mean, it's like, I kind of want to stick to Louisiana versus Louisiana, unless it's like a big win we have to talk about, right? So this is really the only North Louisiana matchup that was worth talking about between two Louisiana teams, especially 2 North Louisiana teams, and that was Calvary and Neville. Neville coming off a huge win over Evangel, 42-24. Calvary, of course, is coming off a huge win over Oak Grove, 61-27. And this game wasn't supposed to happen at first. Originally, it was Neville was supposed to travel to Southside to play the Sharks. Calvary was supposed to play Westgate, but then because of our current at Francine, and they're kind of worried about how it would affect the Lafayette area. Thank God it didn't affect the Lafayette area that much, but still want to take precaution, protect your kids.
Right.
And really also the short practice time, stuff like that. All the stuff that happens when you prepare for a game, and then also the hurricane as well. So that's how the game happened. But both their opponents canceled out, and they're like, "Hey, why not play each other?"
Yeah.
And it ended up being a great game. Neville won 42-38. And if you did not look at the score, Calvary-Baptist actually outgained Neville. But Neville did enough to win the game and did enough defensively to win 42-38. Parker Robinson had a great game, another fantastic game as well. April Mordell had a fantastic game. Jace, what do you have to say about these performances from both these teams? And I mean, this probably may have been the best game of the weekend. I mean, if you really think about it.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, like they had both their games canceled. It's like, hey, why don't we just play each other? I mean, we're both pretty good, so like, yeah, why not? And we talked about it on my podcast as well. But yeah, this said more about. I don't think any less of Calvary after this. I mean, I really don't.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
You outgain them, and like statistically, you outgained Neville in every aspect, and had a chance to win the game. That shows me a whole lot. Actually, I like him even more because being able to play a team up like that, that's a team with more depth, bigger numbers, that is going to be a state championship contender, and you play with them, that tells me a whole lot about Calvary Baptist, right? If you're Neville, that actually got me to be more impressed with you because this Calvary Baptist team is just so good. I mean, I like this team actually better than last year's, and last year's team went undefeated. So this Neville team is going to be a balanced team. They're motivated because, like you mentioned, Grant, plenty of times that they get bounced early in the playoffs or upset in the playoffs. Parker Robinson is a quarterback that's really solid for them. I really like their running back, Jalen Nichols, and he's actually a bowl game running back for us as well. So he's going to be a really good one for Neville. And then defensively, right? Their defense has their best players in their team. I mean, Juju Burns, you talked about him, Brody Watley. They're both Division I guys. So this is a balanced football team. Mike Collins, he may be a first-year head coach at Neville, but he's a very experienced coach, familiar face at Neville. So I really like this Neville football team for them to be able to find a way, even though they're playing against, you can probably say, maybe the best offense in the entire state. When you're talking about this Calvary Baptist offense, the most balanced as well, and find a way to win that football game. Even though you did get outgained, you found a way to make those plays, those key plays. The only points or the stats that matter is the points on the scoreboard, and you found a way to do that. You found a way to score more points than that Calvary Baptist team. So this Neville football team is skyrocketing on my list as well. This is a really good Neville football team, and I would say this is the most impressive win. I mean, we can talk about, JFK is up there too for most impressive wins. Catholic is up there this week for most impressive wins, but Neville for sure. That's probably my top spot for impressive wins this week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's listen. I'm going to list those stats here. Parker Robinson is 11 for 14 for 148 yards with 2 passing touchdowns, and then also a rushing touchdown. Caleb Vaughn led the way receiving-wise. 5 catches, 48 yards, and a receiving and rushing touchdown. So we got 2 total touchdowns. And then also Jalen Nicholas, of course, 18 carries for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Calvary, another fantastic day for the passing attack. Abram Wardell was 21 for 28, 376 yards, and 6 touchdown passes. Colby, yeah. So another ridiculous, another day of work for him. Just typical day of work. Just tossing
Mhm.
around the football, throwing
That's
touchdowns,
his average game.
kicking butt. Yeah, kicking butt. You name it. Kobe Thomas 6 catches for 242 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he also threw a 31-yard pass as well. So their pass totals ended up being over 400 yards, and then Caleb Tucker had 8 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown. So just great performances from both teams. I know, of course, like we said this in the last podcast, like, what do you want the defense to do? If you're the defense corner, like, what do I do? Well, there's nothing I can do. I mean, there's nothing I can do. Just hope and pray you make it stop. That's basically
Yeah, let's say maybe a false start penalty or something, like set them back. Like hopefully Calvary does something, makes a mistake or something. But I can't imagine doing having all those stats and putting all those video game numbers up and still lose. I just can't wrap my mind around it. But man, I mean, both these two teams are going to be really fun to watch. I mean, throughout the rest of the year, and I mean, I guess it's like there's no such thing as a pretty loss, but that's pretty damn pretty, I would say, to lose like that. But yeah, both these two teams are going to be, or definitely going to set their goals of trying to go for a state championship, compete for a state championship, and especially in North Louisiana. I mean, those are probably the top two teams to really keep your eye on right now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, of course, Neville has really opened a lot of people's eyes last 2 weeks. They probably had the most impressive, outside of Rummel, they probably had the most impressive opener to the season so far, but given their 2 wins over Evangel and Calvary.
Right.
And then, Calvary, of course. This doesn't make me look toward Calvary any different. I mean, they played their butts off like it's a very good 5A program and really showed that they're one of the best in the state of Louisiana. And really, I've always said this, like, Calvary is a 4A team that has the talent and depth of a 4A team, but they just have a 2A school enrollment. That's what Calvary is in a nutshell.
Right, and I know we've been talking about Neville's defense, but I'm sure Parker Robinson, Jalen Nichols, their offense, saying, "Hey, we played Evangel Christian, we played Calvary Baptist, and we outscored them. So how about we talk about our offense a little bit, because they've been able to outduel those teams."
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've been giving person. We talked a lot about Calvary's offense, but that's just but that gives him even more credence to how impressive those 2 wins are. That Calvary put up all those yards, yet Neville's offense, they scored more points than they did, and their defense held them to 38 points. I mean, after they scored 61 points their last game. So huge shout out to Neville, and I think Neville right now is a top 5 team to see.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe even number 1, depending on where you want to put. I mean, because it's either between them, Carr, and Ruston, right?
Yeah,
you could throw Catholic in there as well.
But Catholic. I say Acadiana. Acadiana belongs on that list right now. Neville. I mean, those 6 teams, and probably right now, at 7, probably Rummel. Now, based on what they're able to do the first 2 games. So that's probably what I've pretty much ranked it about right now. Going through 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly, right. And, once again, another great game between 2 state powers in North Louisiana. And I'm really excited to see how both these teams finish throughout the year. I mean, I think Neville, they got a sour taste in the mouth after out, last year, how they finished off last year with the second round upset to Calvary. I mean, not Calvary, Central of Baton Rouge. And then, of course, Calvary is trying to repeat as state champions as well. But that's going to wrap up everything in today's show. When we do have the recap of week 3, this episode is not live, but me and Jace decide we're probably going to move it to Friday night right after all the games and do a lot. And I think we should do one live so that we can all tune in, and then you also come back and view it later whenever you want to. Just so, right now we're approaching an hour and 30 minutes. Also it saves more time. So all we have to do is a preview and just, take some time off our plates, and also we can get this out and get this out in a timely manner too as well. So, but anyway, Grant, Jace, before we wrap everything up, overall thoughts about this weekend and maybe kind of look into next weekend.
Yeah, it's crazy, but we're able to have games on 4 straight days. I mean, how many times you can say that in Louisiana high school football? Like Thursday,
Right.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? And then you look at this week. Hopefully, go back to some normalcy here, and just have a normal week. Your Thursday game, your Friday game. Maybe enjoy some college football on Saturday. So, but looking forward to it. It's gonna be. We're going to recap. We're actually going to preview. I know we'll have another show talking about this upcoming slate, and it's still pretty good when we talk about this slate this week. So a lot of really interesting, intriguing games. So looking forward to preview with you, Grant. Thanks for having me on. And we have a lot of coverage too for Gridiron Football. So make sure to check us out. We're actually going to be announcing some bowl game commitments as well on our website. So we've actually got a lot of commits already, the most we ever had at this point. So we're getting on top of it, and we're definitely start ordering your tickets because we got probably the best talent we ever had for the bowl game. So we're looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Make sure you check out Gridiron Football for all coverage, not only across the state of Louisiana, but also nationwide, as they do a bunch of player profiles from across the nation. Diamond and Roughs is what they call it over there. And I also did some Diamond Roughs from my time as an intern at Gridiron Football. So some pretty good info about some of the top players, not only in the state, but also nationwide. And there's also one thing I forgot to mention too. Yeah. And I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier where we're talking about the game, but the interesting thing about JFK, Warren Easton, because it kind of ties together.
Okay.
Obviously, JFK is named after John F. Kennedy.
Right.
I believe our 35th president of the United States.
Right.
Guess who went to Warren Easton High School?
Who?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know why I didn't mention. I don't know why I didn't mention that earlier. I just thought about it now. I was like, wait, I completely forgot to mention this thing earlier.
Right.
That's a very fun set. There's a lot of famous people that attended Warren Easton, by the way.
Oh yeah, there's
a lot. But that's one that they have a wall of fame of all the famous people that went to the school. That's something they're not going to put on the wall. That's for sure.
Wow.
But anyway, that's going to wrap up our show for today, guys. Once again, I'm Grant Sasher at Crest City Sports and also the owner of Rouge Sports Media. Jason LeJeune of Gridiron Football. Of course, make sure to view both of our sites for all the latest high school football across the state. And then also make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Rouge Sports Media YouTube channel, and make sure to follow Rouge Sports Media wherever you like to go on social media, and also do the same for Crest City Sports and Gridiron Football. And make sure also to follow their YouTube channel as well. Crest City Sports got one, Gridiron Football's got one. So make sure to subscribe to all of our channels. For all the latest involving not only just high school football, but sports across the state of Louisiana. But
absolutely.
guys.
Grant.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one, guys. Let's go. See you guys on Thursday.